Greetings! On this week's episode, I interview Dermot Givens from the Black Lives Matter Justice League. Greetings! Welcome to the celebration. I appreciate you being here. As always, you can listen to this as a podcast or watch the video. All that can be found at tomearl.com/Dermot. And right next to me, I have the amazing, the brilliant Dermot Givens. He is a member of the Black Lives Matter Justice League, one of the only lawyers to win a criminal case defending a Black Lives Matter activist. And we thought he'd be an amazing guest to stop by and share his knowledge and experience with us. Does that sound good?
I hope so.
What did I miss? That was a 2-second bio. What's some?
Oh, I'm 60 years old, and you don't have enough time.
Okay. Well,
we'll get into some stuff. I'm sure.
What do you think we have time for?
It's your show. I'm here to answer questions. You want me to interview you?
No, that's
okay.
So where are you from?
Originally from Detroit, Michigan.
And then right to LA?
No. It's a convoluted story, but not too convoluted. Grew up in Detroit, went to high school in Canada, then went to university in Washington, D.C. in Ann Arbor. Then moved back to Detroit, worked in a family business, sold that, then built a nightclub in downtown Detroit. Had that experience for 3 or 4 years. It was the #1 nightclub in downtown Detroit.
What kind of music?
Every night there was a different music for a major nightclub. Very few major nightclubs can run on one genre of music.
Okay.
So you have your, back then we had a hip hop night, which hip hop was just starting. R&B, the rock, alternative rock night.
Was this like late 80s?
Yeah, late 80s, right. And jazz night. And so different nights were different events.
Live music or DJs?
Live music and DJs.
Oh,
and
nice.
Some of the top DJs, if people know the whole Detroit music scene, I won't give the DJs names, but some of the top house music DJs in Detroit now started in our nightclub.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. And this is before Eminem, right before the Eminem era.
Oh, really?
So all the people in the music industry came to our nightclub.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What were some takeaways that you left with from running a nightclub?
Never go into a business with partners.
Yeah, I bet, especially in a nightclub.
It's a whole lifestyle because it's a lifestyle because obviously you're there at night. It's the night people in the nightlife.
And there's alcohol and all that.
All the business gets done during the day. So it's kind of a 24-hour thing you're doing.
Wow.
And just all the different personalities because Detroit, the underworld guys and the sports guys and all the different people came in there, and it was a mixture of people and just dealing with personalities. We never had a shooting in the club.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
good to hear.
It was Detroit.
Well,
it was crazy. It was the most fun. It was a lot of fun, but just crazy.
Okay. So from the nightclub to what?
From the nightclub, we ended up leaving Detroit and came out to LA, and I went to law school and became a lawyer. It was like my third career.
And you said we? Who's we?
My partner.
Your partner. Okay, cool. And what made you decide on law?
From the experience of selling the family business, which gave me the money to build the nightclub, and the whole experience with the nightclub that ended up a major tragedy. I wanted to take some business law classes because I dealt with a lot of lawyers and said, well, they aren't that smart.
They just memorized enough to pass the bar.
They're not that smart. So I said, when I came out to LA, I said, I want to take some business law classes. So contacted some law schools, totally ignorant
Yeah.
of the whole law school process. And they said, well, you have to take this LSAT exam, and you got to apply. And I said, I just want to take some business law classes. They said, no, you're either in law school or you aren't. You can't. It's not like undergrad where you just go take some classes. You got to be in the school. So I went and took the LSAT, didn't even study for it. I guess I did halfway good. And then I applied to a school that was just part-time.
Okay.
I had no idea to graduate from law school, become a lawyer. I was just doing this to take some business law classes. So went to probably the worst mistake. I have a blessed life, and I don't believe in if I could have done something else, whatever. I did what I did, but I went to basically the worst law school, one of the worst law schools in LA, because they had a nighttime program, a part-time program where you just, I wasn't doing the whole full-time student. I just want to take a couple business law classes. But when I went, I fell in love with it and ended up changing the full-time and just becoming a law student for those 3 years and just loving it. And ended up passing the bar and becoming a lawyer.
Wow.
Who would have knew? Yeah.
What's the aspect of law someone falls in love with? Like, what's is it the process? Is it
the power?
The power?
The power.
What do you mean?
I tell people, whatever you do in America, whatever you do, and probably in the world, lawyers are always involved. And so, and it's not that, and this is kind of the tricky thing that I tell people, it's not that lawyers know everything, but we know how to find out. And then we present it as though we know. And people think, oh, they know all. No, we don't.
So where did you get that taste then? Was it through studying and realizing, or through being in a trial? Where did you get that first taste of, I appreciate this?
Oh my God, you're the first person to ask me this. I was in law school here in LA during the Rodney King era. And there was a reform called the Christopher Commission, headed up by then former Secretary of State Warren Christopher. And I participated in the Christopher Commission process. And that's when, from meeting Mr. Christopher and Johnny Cochran at the time and seeing how all that was put together, that was the major thing in LA at the time that transformed LA and hopefully the United States. Seeing that from the inside gave me the sense of how powerful being a lawyer. I was a law student at the time. And how powerful being a lawyer was.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. I'm hearing then, hintings, which we know eventually come, of activism coming in then.
Oh, no, it didn't come in. I've always been an activist.
Okay.
My grandparents, my parents were activists, and my claim to fame for them was they actually were at the 1963 March on Washington.
Wow.
They didn't hear about it. They were there. And the LA Times wrote this story. I should have been there, but at the time they didn't know whether it was going to be violent or how the march was going to turn out. So they dropped me and my brother off at relatives' house in Pittsburgh and went on to the march in Washington. So I can't say I was there.
You were on the way there for a little bit.
Yeah. But did the marches in Detroit, and my grandparents were very political, my parents were very political, so I've always been around the movement, as I say.
Well, there's lots of people who have activist parents and grandparents, but they're not activists. So
well, I guess that's true.
What for you was the connection?
That's an interesting question. Just being able to help people and seeing that you help somebody, I guess that's the drug, the addiction.
Yeah.
It's having, changing people's lives in a real way and knowing that you're doing something important.
And you started with that passion for that from a young age?
Yes.
How did you express that as a young person?
Oh, how young do you like?
It's up to you. First place your mind goes.
Well, I guess, high school, I've always and that's why I try not to be parts of organizations, because if I'm in an organization, I have to go into the leadership role, and that, that puts a lot of burden and time, and that's why I don't join organizations. But, from student council president, all the organization that they had in high school.
Yeah.
And I've always been even in grade school, same thing. Although, and I'm the person that I'm always the outsider.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Just background and everything. I'm never in the clique. I'm always the person fighting against the clique, against the power. Because I've never been, and kind of like a military brat, but not so much. But how military brats, they're always going to different schools, and they're always the new kid.
Yeah.
So I've always been in that situation where not the new kid, but the other kid.
Okay.
And there's the clique, and then there's the other kid.
Okay, got you.
So I've always been the other kid.
I dig it.
So it's like I say, going to school in Canada, going to university, and being an older guy in law school. I've always been the other person.
Okay, I got you.
So
now,
and then being a lawyer, I'm always the black lawyer, because it's very few African American lawyers, and especially in the court system. So it's always odd when I have the clients, the other thing I do is a lot of work with inmates, lifer inmates in prison. So when I show up at the prisons, and they go, "Oh, that's Mr. Givens."
Who says that? The defendant or the people?
The whole system. It's the whole system. From the time you get there and go through the initial gate pass, like, who are you? Mr. Oh, he's the lawyer. Are you sure you're the lawyer? And then from the inmate, when they first meet me, oh, you're Mr. Givens.
Do you find that your defendants have a sense of trust then when they?
No. No.
It makes them less trustful.
I didn't hear your whole question, so ask me your question.
Like if the let's say the inmate's black, is it a sense of relief when they find out that you also are black, or do you find that it becomes a barrier, that your defendant's prejudice becomes a barrier towards building trust between you and your client?
Okay, you're asking me a very interesting question. I actually was just at Folsom Prison yesterday, and I had to interview 8 murderers for upcoming hearings that will be held in August. So I go interview them early. The question you're asking has a lot of different levels, but I'll give you my best answer. Some of my worst clients are African American inmates, especially religious, very radicalized African American inmates, because they think I'm working for the man.
Gotcha.
I'm working against them.
Okay.
And you're a lawyer coming in here.
Like you sold out or something?
I'm the complete sellout.
Okay.
Some of my best clients are the people from the Aryan Brotherhood, the white nationalists, because once they test me and they know I'm going to do the job for them, so I have a reputation with them. They're like, Mr. Givens, can you help me? And I said, what about that Nazi swastika? Oh, no, I'm having that removed.
Oh, my God.
That was when I was young. Just...
That's a trip.
So, it gets real. And I said, well, I understand you got to do what you got to do, but when you get out, if I can get you out, don't mess with black people. Because your punishment is you got a black lawyer helping you. So, it's more. But the black inmates, especially, I had an inmate last week. This was 2 weeks ago. I kind of do my prison work maybe 1 week out of the month, but this month was kind of hectic, The past 2 months was kind of hectic, and I did 2 weeks. In the middle of the hearing, this has actually bothered me because I do the best job for my client.
Yeah.
Period. But we're in a hearing, a commission hearing.
Okay.
And my job is these are lifer inmates who are going to the parole board to see if they can be released out of prison. So I'm actually fighting for their life.
So they've already been convicted of life
They've been
sentence?
spent probably 20, 30 years in prison.
And without parole?
With parole.
Oh, with parole.
That's why they're having a hearing to see
Okay.
if they can get parole.
Okay.
So I take it very serious, and it's a very serious thing that occurs. But I have my client, African-American client, who's going to start telling the commission about the Geronimo Pratt case and how that case impacts his case. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I gotta say something. I can't undermine my client, although he's completely undermined himself. But I can't let this go.
Yeah.
Because it's personal. So, we get to the right moment. So it's, my turn to talk. I said, well, excuse me, Commissioner, I just want to correct the record. I actually, when I was a law student, I participated with Johnny Cochran and did some of the research on the Geronimo Pratt case.
Oh, wow.
The issue in that case was that there was an informant, the DA had an informant by the name of Julius Butler, who they did not give that exculpatory information to the defense team, and that's how Geronimo Pratt got his new trial. Not what this guy is saying.
Oh my God. What was everybody's reaction?
They knew, but I just had to put that on to let him know that he was way out of bounds.
He's reaching.
Using Geronimo Pratt.
Okay.
For his case. And he didn't let me know, and it's like, I'm not letting you get away with that.
Yeah.
You're not running Geronimo Pratt and the hard work that everybody did to get him out for some stuff that you're, running the game on people.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've been a part of some pretty, impactful cases. Part of the Rodney King, Geronimo Pratt.
Yeah, and some fun, some really high-profile kind of cases that have been in the news, and it's been interesting.
You mind sharing one with us?
Yeah, the one that the most fun, I won't say the most fun. I can't think of my client's name, and it's right on the tip of my tongue, but there was a famous jail escape case about 8 or 9 years ago where a guy walked out of LA County Jail, and the name is just right on the tip of my tongue and it's not coming out. And allegedly he used the Eddie Murphy ID as a pass to walk out of LA County Jail.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a manhunt for like 3 days to find this guy.
Yeah.
And so they found him, and then his family hired me to defend him. I know for a fact he did not walk out of LA County Jail.
Okay.
And was ready to put the sheriffs on trial and show exactly how they let him out of jail.
Wow.
However, my client was not coherent.
Okay.
And he fired me.
Oh, wow.
And then the next lawyer that he fired that lawyer.
Oh my God.
And then he ended up representing himself, and he took a plea bargain for 15 to life, and he's now in state prison. And
wow. So the sheriffs let him go?
by mistake.
By mistake. Okay, got you.
Now think about this. A guy walks out of LA County Jail. First of all, if you ever been in the jail, you just don't, here's my ID, let me go.
I'm Eddie Murphy. Oh, hey, Eddie.
That don't happen.
Yeah.
Plus, in the videotapes, he had the jailhouse shoes on that are very distinctive.
Yeah.
It's like he had street clothes on or whatever. But you just don't go, here's my ID, and walk out.
Yeah.
And then the kicker was the sheriffs nor the DA ever showed this ID to me.
That supposedly was shown?
Yeah. And where did they get it from?
Huh.
because if he escaped, he took it with him.
Yeah.
So now on TV, they're showing this he uses Eddie Murphy IP. How did TV media get it? They completely manufactured the story to cover up their incompetence. And he was incompetent enough to let them get away with it.
Oh my gosh.
So that was all on the news and in the papers for weeks and weeks because he kept firing. And we never could get to the case.
That's fun.
And I always want, if I ever run into Eddie Murphy, I want to tell Eddie Murphy, I'm sure they talk to Eddie Murphy. I represented the guy who said he was the imposter and used your picture. You just walk out of LA County Jail.
I wonder how they picked Eddie Murphy.
I don't know. It was, it's just crazy. And he didn't look anything like Eddie Murphy other than being black.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with Black Lives Matter? Or the Black Lives Matter Justice League? And what is the Black Lives Matter Justice League?
Well, that's the easier question.
Okay.
The Black Lives Matter Justice League is headed by Dr. Angela, and I'm again, you got me on the spot, so I can't think of Angela's name. I just talked to her like an hour or so ago. Professor Dr. Angela heads that up, and it's a group of lawyers she brought together under the leadership of Dr. Melina Abdullah, who's one of the heads of Black Lives Matter, to have representation ready when they do protests rather than waiting for the protest to happen and then trying to get lawyers to come, because there's a lot of lawyers that support what they're doing. So Angela put that together, and so that the lawyers have a pool of lawyers to deal with. So that's what the Justice League is, and if anybody wants to help or support the Justice League, please do so.
Where can they do that?
See, can I look at my phone? I can get Angela's.
Well, we can put it in the show notes.
Okay, yeah, because I have it in my phone. I can't think of Angela's name for the last name for the life of me.
So folks who want to support, we'll have it in the show notes where you can click and stuff like that.
And so your second question is, how did I get involved in it?
Yeah.
Now that's I have stories, and that's why you had me on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll tell the story.
We got time. So.
I do a lot of political stuff here in LA, obviously, and the local weekly paper called LA Weekly was doing a story on the Black Lives Matter movement, and they reached out to me to give some commentary or context of the police racism in LA, and they did a cover story on Black Lives Matter, and they used several of my quotes in the story. So I reached out to Dr. Molina, because I didn't know her personally, but I said, I want to reach out to you so we can meet, because I support what you did. And it was a comedy of errors of us finally meeting. It took about 6 months.
Wow.
And I was having friends call her, because I was thinking maybe she doesn't, maybe she heard something bad about me, doesn't want to meet me or something, because every time we set an appointment, the appointment got changed, or she'd be out of town.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 6 months,
Yeah.
And I'd have friends, she would be at an event, and I'd call somebody, and I'd, tell the person who was with her to say, I'm friends with Dermot Givens, and he wants to meet you for lunch.
Vouch for me.
I was vouching. And so eventually we met, and I did a couple cases for them, and another story just came up, and got some of their people out of their legal situation that happened at the protest. And so then I would talk with Dr. Molina, who then put me in touch with Angela, who's now a good friend of mine. That's why I can't think of her last name, because I just call her Angela.
We've been there.
And I said, when I was a child, I can remember, I think I had to have been maybe 8 or 9 years old, and this had been in the early 60s. And the protest the Freedom Riders and protests in Alabama and Mississippi and all the South was going on. And because of my parents' activism, the people that were doing that, Freedom Riders, sent people to Detroit to raise money, and how they raised money, we met at this particular thing. And like I say, I was a child, and I distinctly remember this, at Mr. Hughes's house. And it was like, all the, people that, gathered around, and these people from the Freedom Riders came, and they explained to us how they trained for this protest.
Wow.
And I've always been kind of upset with the movement because they never explained all the work that went into this. People just think people showed up.
Yeah.
They were trained, and how they were trained to, hold their heads and not lash out and take the brutality, because they knew it was going to be brutal.
Yeah.
And how they were trained to support each other, and that's the whole locking arms and all that. You had to support each other to make sure nobody lashed out and got violent, because that's what the police and all that wanted.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the living room, and they were showing us that, and they reenacted the training, how they they call each other names and spit on each other, and they would just just sit there and take it. And I remember seeing that and saying, I wouldn't take that.
Yeah.
But it was the training, so that's what I want. I was trying to relate to Dr. Melina Abdullah and Professor Dr. Angela, whose last name I cannot think. Forgive me, Angela, if you ever see this when you watch this.
We'll get her last name in the show notes too.
Was that, the lawyers, everybody, we need to get together and explain to the protesters, one, you don't do the protest on Friday. Because if you get arrested, you got to stay in jail over the weekend. And don't go to the protest if you have warrants. Tell us about the warrants ahead of time. We can clear all that up, and then go to the protest. Because if you get arrested, we can get you out. The warrant is going to keep you in jail.
Okay, got you.
So, some of the, fundamental stuff, we started talking about, and that's what the Justice League has done to kind of,
bring some of that law knowledge.
Yeah, knowledge to the protesters so that they can have better protests.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. And how do you see activism from when you were younger compared to activism today?
Wow. Because see, I was young, so I had a whole different view.
Yeah.
So
you got to take into account both things.
Yeah, I got to take into account both things. Back when I was younger, I had more idealistic. Now it's more practical.
Well, you can use hindsight too, looking back from your knowledge of hindsight.
And I think because in the 60s, the movement was more real. And I'm saying that because it was, for the masses, it was more personal because everybody was involved. Whether you liked it or didn't like it, you were involved. Now, people have removed themselves from the protest, and even African American people, we kind of view it from afar.
Yeah.
It's not us. It's not our people. They aren't doing anything for us. It's just the protesters are out there, so it's kind of removed. Whereas, I think in the 60s, we were all in it, whether we wanted to be or not.
So that's one way. What about the way of being an activist?
I don't know if when I was a child, I wasn't an activist. I was just watching activists.
And not necessarily just you, but people in general.
Well, again, I like Dr. Melina Abdullah, who is one of the leaders of, and I don't know if that's the correct term, so forgive me on that, but one of the recognized leaders of Black Lives Matter LA has much more of a intellectual lean on protest, and it's much more strategic and much more goal oriented than in the 60s, because I think in the 60s and 70s we were just protesting everything.
Yeah.
This is just messed up. And there was no real goal.
Yeah.
at the end. Whereas, whether you agree or disagree, the Black Lives Matter movement has a goal.
And what would you say the goal is?
Oh, I don't know. That's for them to say.
Okay.
Obviously, to stop bad policing.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And how anybody can be against that, I don't know. Well, the police should be for Black Lives Matter because we're for good. And I'm saying we, as I'm not an official member of Black Lives Matter, but as a black person, African American person, we want good policing.
Yeah.
That's it.
From your all the different intersections of your experience and your passion for both activism and law, would you mind sharing with us some of your reflections on the systemic discrimination in the police system, the systemic brutality?
Now you want to get me arrested.
We can move on and from that whatever you want.
Let me, my personal point of view, the system is messed up.
Yeah.
It's the best system in the world, but it's messed up. And hopefully it can be fixed, but it needs to be rearranged.
Messed up by design or accident or what was
well, Dr. Abdullah would be a better person, and Professor Angela would be a better person to explain. I'm not an academic. We were founded by, the founders who wrote the Constitution, and they didn't write us in it.
Yeah.
So from that point on, it's messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. We agree, and most of the guests on our show talk about the same thing.
Okay.
Just always curious to hear other people's perspective rather than assuming.
Right.
But yeah,
And that was, like I say, going to law school. And one of the things about going to law school is, the Constitution and the law. And I'm sitting there saying, I'm supposed to respect the Supreme Court justices who said I wasn't human? I don't think so.
What's that like then, coming from a law perspective where you're involved in the law? You know what I mean? And you're told to respect the law and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I am a member of the state bar, so I want to keep my my license.
Don't let me ask any questions.
Let's pass on that question.
Okay, definitely. Don't want to have this should be a.
I have to pay the rent.
Yes, indeed. Tell me then if this is one of those kind of questions too. Is it possible, or is there such a thing as a fair trial?
No.
That was right away. Could you elaborate?
I can. I just have to edit. Theoretically, it may be true.
Okay.
When I'm in a courtroom in a criminal trial, I've never seen a prosecutor who wants to get to the truth. They want to win.
Got you.
Period. So, we can say it's a search for the truth. I've never seen a prosecutor who is searching for the truth. I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
In certain cases, I just have not been involved in those cases.
And what do you think is their definition of win in the examples you've seen?
For the prosecutor?
Mm-hmm.
To put a black man in jail.
Anyone?
Anybody. And I tell my clients, anybody you do, they put me in jail if they could.
Wow.
So, that's when I go into prison, I always say, I'm okay as long as you all know that I can leave.
Yeah. What is that?
They don't care.
Is that a lot of added pressure going into defending someone knowing that?
Well, to me, it's a relief. Because I want to explain to my clients the reality of the situation, because the client always wants to say, well, Mr. Givens, let me tell you the truth. Hold up. I don't need to know the truth. Truth don't have nothing to do with what we're getting ready to do. If you want truth and justice, watch TV.
Gotcha.
Go watch Judge Judy.
Yeah.
This is not that.
And what
this is a fight for your life. They're trying to put you in jail. And they don't care. So it's no magic words. I can't, the judge is not going to say, oh, well, Mr. Givens, your client's telling the truth. Never happens.
And do you do mostly jury trials?
Well, you're not a lawyer, so
I am not.
let me correct you.
Please do. Please do.
There's only two types of trials, a
Okay.
jury trial or a bench trial when the judge makes a decision.
Okay.
There's no jury. So when you say, do you do mostly jury trials? If it goes to trial, 9 out of 10 is going to be a jury trial.
Okay, got you.
Do my clients go to trial? 90% of clients do what's called a plea bargain.
Okay.
And that's where the system is completely corrupt.
That's what I've
Because
heard.
the system doesn't care if you're innocent or guilty, because if they figured you're not guilty of that, then why would they offer you a plea bargain? And if you're not guilty of that, then why would they offer you a plea bargain? They offer you a plea bargain because that puts the client in the position of minimizing his losses. And it's difficult for someone who's never been in that position to understand. But if someone is saying, okay, you can go to trial and the consequences are you will get a sentence of 15 to life. And any life sentence means life, unless the parole board lets you out.
Wow.
7 to life, 10 to life, 100 to life. It doesn't make any difference. It's life. So you can do that realizing that prosecutors win over 90% of their cases.
Wow.
Or plead guilty to this charge and we just give you 10 years.
Wow.
What's your decision? If you don't take the 10 years, you're stupid.
That's what you think?
Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah.
Well, and we know there's Jay-Z just put out a documentary on the young man from New York, Khalid. Do you know his last name? I forgot.
No, I can't pronounce it.
No, I forgot it.
You see, we're bad with last names on the show. They'll put it
Forgive
on
us.
Yeah, put it on
The show notes will
show
redeem
notes.
us. But for those who aren't familiar, and maybe you know more details than I do, but they kept wanting him to take a plea deal, and he wouldn't take it because he said, I didn't do it, and he was a minor, and they put him in, what's that prison out there? Rikers. And they just kept stalling it, saying, oh, we have a witness, and they kept stalling it.
How many years? And
Yeah, he eventually got out, and then people thought he won a case, so he was getting robbed all the time. People thought he had money, and unfortunately, eventually he committed suicide. So I believe Obama passed something that you can't put minors in solitary confinement anymore because of that, right?
But Trump is probably going to reverse it.
Yeah, unfortunately. So that's an example where someone was probably pressuring him to say, look, just take the plea. And just
Well, let me explain to you.
Please do.
Because people get this wrong, and I have to speak up for my colleagues, other defense lawyers. I'm not in the room. I only deal with my clients. But I never pressure my client to take the plea. That's not what I do. I explain to them what the facts are, and then they get to choose. But my job is to give them the complete facts and information that I have. It's their choice because it's their life.
Yeah.
I don't pressure them either way, but I try and give them the information to make the decision. When you have a client, that's the disheartening thing of being a defense attorney is you see innocent people get taken to prison every day.
Wow.
I would say in California, I don't have any statistics to back this up, but just
From your experience.
anecdotal experience, at least 50% of the people in California prisons did not do what they were charged with doing.
Wow.
At least 50%.
And out of that 50%, would you say they're mostly black people or people of color?
Yeah.
How often in what you've seen would something like that happen to somebody who's white?
It happens, and it happens. Percentage-wise, obviously, it's a low percentage because if anybody wants to go into a criminal court, going to downtown criminal court in L.A., you see very few white people, except the police officers and the prosecutors and the judges. But as far as like people coming there for trial or cases, it's all black and brown. You'll see a white person every now and then, but doesn't happen. Same thing with traffic tickets. It's the same thing. You go in, if you ever go to traffic court in LA, it's all black and brown.
And eviction court too.
Yeah. Because white people have another system somewhere they haven't told me where it's at, but they get to work things out.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you know.
I have had a little experience.
Did they tell you?
Mine was a very privileged experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean,
you're white. I figured they.
Yeah. I shared in an earlier episode for my birthday where I shared, my 19th birthday. I was looking at a felony, and my dad shared, and I interviewed him the episode after, and he was like, "Well, there was one time where you kind of messed up." And I got probation a year. And my dad then told on the podcast that the judge or the DA was going to just let me go. But he told the DA, I don't want him to just get away with it.
Oh, your dad ratted you out.
He said, give him probation. And I'm like, wow, see, that's privilege that my dad got to decide with the DA what should he punish your son with.
It happens. Yeah.
So...
Well, congratulations.
I'm not saying this is the funny thing.
You got to use it.
I do a lot of workshops with white people on privilege, and one thing I always say is we like our privilege until we have to admit we have it. Because I'm not going to go back and say, you know what, I feel like I'm getting white privilege here. Please sentence me. I'm not going to say that. So I can't then later be like, it's not true. How did you get involved working with helping people get parole?
I worked when I came out of law school, I got a job in international television as a business affairs attorney and traveled the world. Great, job. Got to see all the top television broadcasters in the world. A lot of money, but you really didn't do anything. Yeah. Because our clients were international broadcast networks. This was right when the television privatization was going on. And just like if you were in England, they only had 3 channels, BBC One, BBC Two, and BBC Three, which were all state-owned. And that was all of Europe and most of all the world just had state-owned television. Okay. So in the late 80s, early 90s, the laws were changing and privatization occurred. So they were licensing to private networks. And so it was a big rise, and cable television, all that was coming up. So the clients were purchasing U.S. programming because that's what runs the world, just like the movies. The U.S. television, to a certain extent, runs the rest of the world's television as far as shows and stuff. So our clients would buy programming from the major studios. Okay. Like Warner Brothers, Disney, Sony, whatever. So they're in no position to negotiate. Yeah. So you go, they have dinner, you meet, they wine and dine you, and they say, this is the deal. You want it or you take it. You want it or you take it. So there wasn't any, Yeah.
It's formalities.
There's formalities. Yeah. So I really wanted, I went to law school, I'm an activist, I need to have a client. Yeah. I want to do something. I want to get somebody out of jail. I want to, help somebody win a trial. So I read an article in the State Bar magazine about the lifer hearing programs, which if anybody in the audience, if you ever saw the movie Shawshank Redemption, is basically like that, where Morgan Freeman would go to the parole board and they just stamp deny, because they weren't back then. Governor Gray Davis was not letting anyone out of prison. But in California, because they've screwed the system up so much, they're federally mandated to provide attorneys to the inmates. Okay. And so I have a contract with the state to provide those services. So, but before then, I called the state. I read this magazine article and said, because I had the experience with Geronimo Pratt, and I didn't help, but was kind of around and did some limited research and knew what was going on with that. I called the state and said, hey, I want to volunteer do this. And they said, you can't volunteer.
Wow.
You either, you got to do the training and either do it or you don't.
Oh, okay.
So I went and did
Just like the law school. Huh?
Just like the law school. You either do it, I always get, so I take up the challenge. I guess. So, yeah, I can do that.
Bring it on.
So I did and did the training and, ended up, it's fascinating to go into these prisons and especially most of the African American inmates, they've never seen a black attorney before. Yeah. So it was kind of a calling, and I guess now I'm one of the better attorneys for that. And now the system has kind of changed where under Governor Jerry Brown, lifers are getting parole dates. In fact, last Friday I just got a gentleman a parole date, and he'll be hopefully released from prison in about 120 days.
Wow.
So it's kind of, and now I do it like say 1 week out of the month because it's a passion of mine.
Yeah. That's got to be quite an extraordinary feeling to get somebody parole.
It is.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, it is.
To go from life, I can't even imagine. I mean, our culture. Not only are we 1 out of every 100 people locked up, but there's also this obsession with prison. There's all these TV shows and like behind bars, and I mean, there's so many people making money off TV. So I just can't imagine the psychology of getting a life sentence, and then, and then to get it like parole, after you had one, that has to just be an amazing feeling.
And they actually go into shock because they announce the decision that the process is the hearing is probably, other than Charles Manson hearings or something which will go all day, and the OJ hearing which will go all day, but normally the hearings are more 3 to 4 hours long. Then they take a break for deliberation, which will probably be about an hour, and then you go back in and they announce the decision. Usually when the decision has been made to parole the person and they hear that, they go into shock.
Wow.
Absolutely go into shock.
Do people start like what does shock look like?
It depends on, just emotional breakdown to tears to just fainting. Wow. It's just, it's shock. Because they, usually they've spent 30 or more years in prison trying to get out.
Do you find that after somebody gets parole, while they're waiting to get out, that guards or anybody messes with them to try to get them to commit something?
Yes. That's the most dangerous, and that's why, the most dangerous time for the person is between the time they have their decision to the time they get out, because everybody's shooting at them. Even their fellow inmates, the guards, everybody's trying to mess with them.
And hope they commit a crime and have to stay in?
Well, it's not called a crime right then. It's a violation.
Got you.
A rule violation.
Wow, and I bet there's a lot of rules.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, this has been amazing. I have 3 questions left.
Okay.
And whatever stems from those 3 questions. Is that okay?
Okay.
Let's start with Kikanza's.
Okay.
I texted some people and asked, is there any questions that she wanted me to include? And she asked, to reflect upon, or she'd like to hear, comparing yourself to Johnny Cochran or other high-profile attorneys.
Not that rich yet.
For those, we mentioned him a couple times. For those who don't know, who's Johnny Cochran?
Johnny Cochran is kind of like the hero of every African American attorney in the world, and he was OJ's attorney, and just a lot of high-profile cases. There's been movies about him. I actually knew Johnny Cochran, and one of the things that he told me, when I was working in international television, people might not know this, but Johnny Cochran had a TV show for a brief period of time, and he and I actually talked about how he could get that show in more in the international market, and I was kind of advising him a little bit on that. And one of the things that he told me, because I actually knew Johnny Cochran, wasn't best friends or anything like that, and I know some of his lawyers that were his best friends, like Carl Douglas and McKisson and Sean. I know them, but I wasn't that close to him. But one of the things he told me the story about how he did not get the Rodney King case because Rodney King called him and he didn't answer the phone. So he said, "Givens, answer your damn phone." So I actually sleep with my cell phone.
Oh, really?
So if it rings, I'm going to answer because you never know who that, when that big case is going to come.
Oh, wow.
But that's why he didn't get the Rodney King case.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about putting your phone on airplane mode a lot on this show, so it's good to have a different perspective brought to the table.
But no, I don't compare myself to Johnny Cochran at all. He was a brilliant strategist, which I think I am. However, he was also a brilliant legal mind. People don't know this, but he did serve in the district attorney's office and, saw it from both sides. I never worked in government as a lawyer, would never be a district attorney, never be a prosecutor. I couldn't do it. So I don't have that perspective from that point of view.
What is a good legal mind? What does that mean?
Okay. Let's see. You'd have to go to law school because what I would tell you, and I'll say this to any. I mentor a lot of people who want to go to law school and people who are in law school because in going to law school, and this is a hint for anybody that's out there, you don't learn the law in law school. And people think, oh, well, what's code saying? I don't know. You look it up. The laws change every year, every month. They're changing. Nobody, certain, specialists or whatever, certain laws or whatever, but people think the lawyers know because, and we're not like police or sites. I don't know what to look it up. And whatever it says in the book, my job is to make it work for my client.
Got you.
So there is no such thing as the law. It's what you make it.
Okay.
And that's what non-lawyers don't understand. They think there's this thing as the law. And the law says this. No, the law is what I can make it say and what I can get a judge to agree it says. There's no law.
That's one of my friends who was in law. They said you learn the process. You learn to think like it.
Right.
To be able to think on your feet. And
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, well, let's move on to our last two. We had one of our guests after the Muslim ban, or it's not a ban.
Trump said it is.
Now he said it's a ban. He's a civil rights attorney, works for Council on American Islamic Relations, and he was sharing with us a lot of things that the everyday Muslim should know while traveling. Kind of like Know Your Rights 101. It sounds like you have both business law and some activist law advice you might be able to share with our folks. Is this true? Could you share maybe what's something to keep in mind? Like you were saying, don't protest on a Friday. Don't go with a warrant. Is there any myths you want to break or some things people should be aware of if they want to, make a difference through activism or using their voice?
Read, listen, and know what's going on. Most of the people, I think, you engage in conversation, and within a minute you can, they just heard some talking points on the radio, and that's all they know.
Yeah.
It's a lot more to this. These are people's lives. People are spending their lives doing this. It's a lot to this. It's not simple. It's extremely complicated. And if you move this moves, and everything's connected. So there's a lot to it, and you have to understand that. And you're dealing at the base of it. You're dealing with people's lives. It's not some esoteric thing that you're talking about, and it's difficult. And if you're willing to do the work and understand, I think we can do it. We can all do it.
Is there any like law 101 things people should know going in, or is that the first thing to know is that there is no law 101 thing?
That's 101. Like I say, I tell this to people. You'll never be in court or get two lawyers together and one lawyer says, well, this is the law, and the other lawyer is going to say, yeah, you're right. Never happens.
One thing I forgot to ask, I was at an open mic and they had someone come and speak, and she said she was on trial for lynching, and she said that lynching is when, if you're being arrested and you try to pull someone back from getting arrested, that's called lynching.
Right, that was the Black Lives Matter case in Pasadena.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it still called that?
No, Holly Mitchell, State Senator Holly Mitchell actually had that law changed after that case. So again, the law changes.
Okay, got you. Because that was crazy when I think everybody, when they heard it, really.
She was actually convicted and lost on appeal, I think.
Wow. What's the sentence for that?
I don't know that case because that was right at the. I was just getting involved with Black Lives Matter at the end of that case, and that's when they again decided to do the Justice League and put that together. And I think part of that case, how that case developed, was they thought they needed more lawyers and different representations to give them better input.
I mean, that's a travesty of black women convicted of lynching.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. But if you go into court and the prosecutor says, this is a Black Lives Matter case, then it's guilty.
Everybody already knows. They already go with their opinion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Not looking for the truth.
Yeah.
So they came up, this was a law that was on the books like 1800s or whatever, that's never been changed, and they reached back and found this, never used it before. You probably can't find any case law on when this was ever used, and they used it against a black woman at a protest.
Wow.
Exercising her First Amendment rights.
Wow.
They didn't care.
Well, last question. Well, maybe. We have a lot of people, because you have a business background. We have a lot of entrepreneurs who listen. Is there any law advice or like constant violations people are doing or making themselves vulnerable or susceptible to some sort of litigation in like the everyday entrepreneur who's just getting started?
That's we do not have another hour or 2 or 3. One of my pet peeves, because I get young entrepreneurs calling me and I need to incorporate.
Yeah.
No, you don't. And you hear it on the radio, oh, you need to incorporate
to become an LLC.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it'll
protect
protect
your
you.
assets.
Yeah.
No, it don't. Every lawyer in the world knows how to get around that.
Got you.
But the problem is you need to focus on your business. Focus on your business. When you get to the point that you have business and you're making money, hire a lawyer. There is not one billionaire walking around on earth who, when he's approached by something, doesn't say, well, let me talk to my lawyer about that. But somehow entrepreneurs, I'm going to go read it. I'm going to do it. No, focus on your business. When you get your business to the point of making money and you have assets, then you may want to think about incorporation. But on paper, if that's all you got, and you just want to fill out the forms, oh, I'm incorporated, that doesn't do you any good.
Yeah, because they make it sound like, well, if they sue you, you can say, my LLC doesn't have any money and walk away clean. That's a myth?
Yes.
Because they'll find a way to say, okay, cool, we're still coming after you.
Yeah, because it's called piercing the veil. You can have the LLC or whatever you want to call it, but if you're still using it as your personal business and it's just you can pierce the veil and get right to them.
Okay.
If a inoculated corporation, you need a board of directors, an independent board of directors, not your friends and family, and you need to have all the documentation of the minutes from the meetings to show, like, FedEx or Sears or General Motors.
The nonprofit I'm at, we have to do that.
That's what I'm saying. You do all that. and you have to have all that. You can't just, I'm incorporated. I got an LLC.
Are they the same, incorporated in LLC?
Yeah. I'm old school, so it
Okay.
used to be just, back in the day, you'd just be, General Motors Inc. or whatever.
So all
Now
LLCs.
there's different states have different LLCs and this and that and whatever, but it's all under the incorporation.
And all of them have to have boards.
Yes.
And all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can't just be an entrepreneur, have an LLC, and it's still just you.
Because it's just you.
Got you. This is important.
It's still just you.
In the meantime, do you think insurance is a good thing to have and to protect against liabilities?
It depends on the industry. I mean, that's a question. Let me say this to all the entrepreneurs out there. You've heard of the story of the guy maxing out his credit cards. You got to do what you got to do to get the business.
Okay.
If it's not about getting the money from other people, you're wasting money.
So first get it so it's established, then
get
hire
the money.
somebody and they'll
Get
work
the
out
money.
your specific instance.
Get the money.
And all the accountants that I've talked to say once you get to about 100,000, that's when you should start having the conversation. Okay.
When you're getting some money.
There we go. Anything we didn't cover that you feel you want to speak to? Okay. What if folks want to get in contact with you? Can they do that?
Yes. My telephone number is area code 310-854-8823. I do not collect calls.
I don't think we've ever had a guest give their phone number. This is the first.
No, Johnny Coggin, call me.
Call you.
I will answer the phone. That's my office number, but if you're a client of mine, you get
the cell phone.
Okay. And you call me, I'm answering.
Okay.
My family hates it, but I'm in the middle of church, excuse me, pastor, I got to take this call. Could be a new case. I'm not that bad. My email address is my first name, Dermot, DERMOT, at D. Givens Law. D is my initial for my first name. Givens, G-I-V as in Victor, E-N-S, law, L-A-W.com.
Perfect. And all of that, we keep mentioning the show notes, it's tommerle.com/Dermot. So you can check all that out. It's been an honor. This is fun. This is an experience. We just went all around.
Got me sweating. I hope the state bar doesn't get hold of this tape.
Well, is there some sort of disclaimer we can give?
No, I'm on the hook. I was just joking. Mr. Givens.
He had his fingers crossed. You're cool. Well, this was fun. Thank you so much, honestly. It's been a pleasure. I know everybody's going to really appreciate this, so thank you for that. And as always, folks, let us know what you think. Reach out, and, both of us here, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you. Greetings, Tom Earl here. I hope you enjoyed that episode of The Celebration. I wanted to touch base because a lot of people have been having some amazing questions about the Celebration Academy. And so I wanted to give you a back-end perspective or a back-end insider's view of what is the Celebration. So the Celebration is an individualized learning platform where you get your own learning profile, and it has all of your lessons, your videos, your handouts, the MP3 downloads, everything you need right here on your own learning platform that you log into. And it's a 6-week course that, just like the podcast, it's a place for leadership, inclusion, and expression where we live as the best version of ourselves. Except with this, it takes a step-by-step systemic approach that builds upon each week so that you connect with your gifts and your purpose while taking your leadership, your expression, your communication, and your relationships to the highest level of the best version of yourselves. It's a great program. As you can see, each week has 2 lessons. and they're in great sizes, 15 minutes each lesson, so that you can complete one lesson on the way to work and complete the other one on the way home from work, or however you'd like to break this down. So you can just go click right in. Here's your video. It's great. You can download the MP3, all your handouts. You can have comments here where your classmates or I can respond. It's great. And if you sign up right now, you're going to see right here that I include the achievement roadmap right there for you. At the same time, if you sign up right now, you get a one-on-one coaching session with me, which is going to be great. In addition, you get added to Leadership Makes Impact, which is a membership program where you get a free training every single month. So you can check that out all right here, tommerl.com/courses. Right there, you can enroll today. And if you'd like, we have a program called the Achievement Roadmap. It's a free 3-part course. Connects you with the tools, mindsets, and practice for stress-free time management and high-impact goal setting. So if you'd like, you can sign up for that for free just by going to tommerl.com/courses. Sign up for free right here, and then create your own unique, individualized user profile. Just enter your name, your email address, create a password, hit sign up for free, and you are in. Once you're in, it looks like this. And you have awesome stuff right here. Welcome each class, and you can download each one as an MP3 if you want to listen to it on the go. So I hope you consider doing that. And for all my artists out there, consider joining Art Makes Impact. It's a $10 a month membership program where you get access to all of the live and online writing workshops that I have done this year. And at the same time, I do exclusive writing workshops for Art Makes Impact members. We have a great time during that. We'd love to have you join us. It's $10 a month. We have a great time, and you can also download all these as MP3s, have comments. All of that can be found at tommerl.com/courses. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope you consider joining us. Sign up for free for the Achievement Roadmap and give us a test run. You won't be disappointed. As always, my friends, I'll see you next week, and I'm wishing you peace and blessings.